right, ladies and gentlemen, I had a request to show you all how to fill out the addendum for property subjects to mandatory membership in property owners associations, aka HOAs. Okay, if you have a property in an HOA, it's required that you fill this out on your 1 to 4 contract. There's a section down at the bottom. You want to make sure you check that to show that you have something in the HOA and it's included with the 1 to 4 family. So make sure you check that on your 1 to 4, page 9, I think 8, something like that. You should be able to find that pretty easy. So first thing I want to point out, guys, this is not for use with condominiums. Every single condo sold is going to be a part of a condo association. That is a different form. Remember, when you're buying a condo, you're buying the air within the walls of the condo. You're not buying the exterior wall, the roof, none of that stuff. So all of the people that have to take, so in order for the roof to be repaired, it's going to be repaired by an HOA or condo association. This is not the same. These are for properties that are in a homeowners association or something along those lines. There's also POAs. That tends to be in more rural areas where there's property owner associations, but HOAs are the most common. It's actually pretty simple to fill out. I'm just going to walk you through it real quick. And we will, if you got any questions, just add them to the bottom of the video and I'll be sure to answer them. Street address and city, pretty easy. Name of properties association. So the first question is where do I find all of this information? Well, most of the time it should be in the listing. So when I go here, so I just found this house that's at the Bandit. So the HOA name is the Long Creek HOA. Guys, you got to make sure just because you have a common name, so this particular one, everybody refers to it as the Bandit, but that's not the name of the HOA. It is the Long Creek HOA. And a lot of times if you just, if you just go to search Long Creek, this usually works. I don't know if it will on this one. Yeah, so like right here, Long Creek owners. So you can get a lot of the information you need for the documents, the covenants, all this stuff beforehand, so you can review them to see if your clients are okay with that. I highly recommend you do that because it's kind of a pain in the butt and it costs money to get all this stuff. So go check these things out. And a lot of the information will be here as well. So going back to figure this out. So the name of the property owners association would be Long Creek, right? So that's Long Creek HOA, right? And what's the phone number? Man, great question. We got to make sure we figure out where that is. And I don't see, maybe it's under contact us. I don't have a direct phone number here. So guys, do your best to find one. If I can't find one, I will usually put the agent's phone number right there. I know it's a little bit devious, but hey, look, I couldn't find it. Or you can just ask the agent, hey, do you happen to have their phone number? So do your best to find a phone number. So to find that, I'm just going to put in, a phone number. So then all we got to do is we just got to figure out one of these 4 boxes. So when we're buying this, we need to know what the HOA does. So we need to know what restrictions they have, what covenants they have. Can I put a chicken coop in the backyard? Can I paint my house purple? Whatever it might be, that weird things come up with HOAs. So we need to find out within blank days. Usually I put something pretty short, 10 or less. After the effective date of this contract, shall or shall obtain, pay for, and deliver the subdivision information to the buyer. Okay, I'm going to leave the rest of this out. Step number 2 is within 10 days, the buyer shall obtain. So that's the big difference in those 2 right there. Who's going to go get it? You pick the fight as you see accordingly, guys. The reason why these are options is because it's up to you. Everything's negotiable. I don't really have a recommendation which one's better. If I did my homework and it was this easy where I could get all of it just like right here, then I'm going to say, you know what, I'll get it and I'll deliver it to him. Okay. Now, but there's additional forms that are going to be required from the HOA, which I'll talk about. Most of the time, I don't want my person paying for it. So I'm going to try, if I'm representing the buyer, I'm going to try and put it on the seller. Buyer has received and approved this. I've already gotten it. Thank you. Right? I'm done. Done. But the one thing that I do want to point out here that is important is this resale certificate. And I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit more in just a second. Or the 4th one, the buyer does not require any of this. If the buyer doesn't care, then we don't care. Okay. I think that's dangerous, but whatever. Okay. The next thing is when we're looking at the 4 of these things, like who's going to obtain and pay for. So right here, these documents are actually pretty easy to get. Okay. This does not include a resale certificate. The HOA needs to know who the new homeowners are. They can't just, they have to know. They have to know how to get in contact with them. And there's a ton of reasons why, because if they do violations or whatever it is to collect fees, they need to know where that came from. So in order to know where that came from, they have to have what's called a resale certificate. You have to tell us who resold it. Every HOA I've ever worked with charges for this. It's not a lot of money, but it is money. So who's getting it and who's paying for it, right? The way you obtain the resale certificate, unfortunately, is different with every single HOA. I've seen some of them where they do it online. You go fill out a form, you put in your credit card, and you're done. I've seen some of them where it has to be a written request that's sitting in. You got to give them at least 20 days. You know what I mean? You've got to do your homework, guys. Every HOA is so different, and it's a little frustrating. Recently, the state of Texas this past September created some rules on it, but it doesn't really matter. You just need to figure it out. They're trying to get it more uniform. It's not yet, but you know what I mean? Just do your homework. It's not that hard. The next thing is you have to fill out in here is we have to fill out the fees and deposits for reserves, except for provided by paragraph A and D, which I'll get to that in a minute. Buyers shall pay any and all association fees, deposit charges, whatever it is, not to exceed. So how do I come up with that number? Guys, if you look at the MLS listing, so like I said, this one's in Long Creek. If I look at it, here it is right here. If you read this, the first number is how much is the HOA fee to live there? Well, it's $650. Well, how often do I have to pay $650? Well, in this neighborhood, it's annually. Guys, I'm telling you, I've seen a monthly, quarterly, week, I've seen everything. So we got to pay attention. But what I'm worried about is, what is the transfer fee? Well, the transfer fee is $200. A lot of times the seller will pay for it, will not pay for it, whatever it is. If I'm telling my buyer, hey, I'm going to make him get the docs, but you're going to have to pay for the transfer, for the resale certificate. So I'm going to put in here that he's going to pay $200. If for any reason it goes above this, which might be because he has outstanding things, he did something wrong, whatever, the seller's going to pay the excess as listed right here. I usually make sure whatever number is on the MLS listing, is what I put in there, because, hey, look, I'll pay what you posted it cost. If it costs more, that's on you, which usually gets the selling realtor in trouble if they're not paying attention to what's going on. So that's kind of a nice one. The last one is the seller authorizes the association to release and provide the subdivision information and any updated resale certificate if requested by the buyer, the title company, or the broker, any broker to the sale. So the seller has authorized us to go talk to these people. We don't have a right to talk to them because we don't live there. They don't have to talk to us. But with this paper signed, they've given us basically, for lack of a better term, a power of attorney to go talk to them. If the buyer does not require the subdivision information or an updated resale certificate, and the title company requires information from the association, okay, so buyer doesn't need it, but the title company needs it. Does that make sense? So the buyer doesn't need it, but the title's going, hey, I need to know this information. What kind of information? Such as the status of dues, any special assessments. By the way, a special assessment means, hey, your dues are $650, but everybody's getting charged $5,000 this year because we're putting in a pool. That's a special assessment. Violations of the covenants and restrictions. Did he paint the house purple and he's currently in trouble with the HOA? We need to know that, and title companies are going to want to know that. And the waiver of any right of first refusal. Have you offered this house to somebody else and the HOA is aware of it? Who is going to pay the title company that cost? Honestly, I think that's on the seller most of the time, but it's kind of up to you. And that's it, guys. It's an easy form to fill out. First of all, who's paying for the information? Who's going to get it and who's going to pay for it? Or I've already gotten it, or I don't need it. Okay, so those are our three, right? Seller's going to get it, buyer's going to get it. I already got it, or I don't need it. How much do I need to pay to get it? And then, should the title company need anything else, who's paying for that additional stuff? That's it, guys. Remember, everything's negotiable. So, fill it out how you see fit. Of course, I'm going to recommend that you are a good fiduciary to your client and you have them take care of as much of it as you can. But that's it in a nutshell, guys. Less than 10 minutes.